case involving former Chapman law professor John Eastman prompts a recusal by one U.S. Supreme Court justice. We have the details.
I'm Luis Avila in Santa Ana, where voters next month will decide whether one council member keeps her job. Now there are questions about the police union's involvement in the recall election. I'll have that story coming up.
Plus, highlights from the 7th Annual Pacific Air Show in Huntington Beach. That and much more coming up on Chapman News.
From Dodge College of Film and Media Arts, this is Chapman News.
The lights. Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Chapman News. I'm Avery Feldman.
And I'm Kevin Barr. Our top story today, a historic congressional power battle in Washington, D.C. Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz is making good on his vow to try and remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House. In a first test today, Gaetz prevailed, narrowly defeating a motion that would have blocked the effort to oust McCarthy. Gaetz and other hard-right House members are angry that McCarthy worked with Democrats to pass a stopgap funding measure, which kept the government from shutting down.
Look, I think Matt has planned this all along. It didn't matter what we transpired. You know, he would have done it if we were in shutdown or not. I firmly believe it's the right decision to keep government open, to make sure our military is still paid, our border agents are still paid. And if that makes a challenge based upon whether I should be Speaker, I'll take that fight.
In order to save his job, McCarthy would need the support of Democrats, but he says he will not cut a deal just to stay in power. The vote on whether to actually remove McCarthy would take place later today. It will be the first time in 100 years there has been a vote to remove the Speaker of the House. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas recused himself from a case involving former Chapman University law professor John Eastman. The court yesterday rejected Eastman's appeal, which centered on Eastman's attempt to block Chapman from handing over emails he wrote on his university account. Eastman wrote the emails while serving as an advisor to former President Trump. He pushed the discredited theory that former Vice President Mike Pence could legally refuse to certify the 2020 election results. This is the first time Justice Thomas has recused himself from a case related to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Although no reason was given, experts say Thomas likely recused himself because Eastman previously worked as a law clerk for Thomas. Eastman has been indicted in connection with attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election results in Georgia.
Governor Newsom has appointed abortion access advocate and labor union leader LaFonza Butler to temporarily fill Dianne Feinstein's seat in the Senate. Feinstein died last week at the age of 90 after serving 31 years in the Senate. She planned to retire next year. There had been calls for her to step down earlier, and Newsom had publicly promised he would appoint a black woman if Feinstein's seat opened. Some Democrats had called on Newsom to appoint Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who is one of 3 declared Democratic candidates running for the seat in next year's election. Butler is the first openly gay woman of color to serve in the U.S. Senate. She has until December 8th to decide if she will run for a full 6-year term.
This is day 2 of the $250 million fraud trial against former President Trump. New York Attorney General Letitia James is suing Trump, accusing him of inflating his net worth and the value of his various companies in order to obtain preferential loan terms. Trump is the frontrunner in the Republican presidential candidates race. He took a break from campaigning yesterday to hear the opening statements in the civil trial. 2 of Trump's adult sons, Donald Jr. and Eric, took over management of the family business in 2017 and are co-defendants in the trial. Trump verbally attacked Judge Arthur Engoron, who is overseeing his case. Last week, in a pretrial decision, the judge stripped Trump of his New York business licenses.
Here in Orange County, as many as 1 million people were in attendance for the Pacific Air Show in Huntington Beach this weekend. From vintage biplanes to most advanced stealth fighter jets, this year's air show boasted its largest lineup ever and even had a last-minute addition as former President Donald Trump's Boeing 757 made a pass early Friday. Although hotels in the area sell out months in advance, most of those attending enjoyed the show for free. However, tickets were available and gave some spectators access to over 30 food trucks, a concert-grade sound system stretching a mile long, and 60,000 square feet of flooring.
75,000 Kaiser Permanente employees could begin striking tomorrow, which would be the largest healthcare strike in U.S. history. A group of 8 unions representing Kaiser employees have failed to reach an agreement with the healthcare company. Pay raises, protections against outsourcing, and better pension plans are among the sticking points in contract negotiations. In a statement to its members, the United Healthcare Workers Union claims that, quote, Kaiser continues to bargain in bad faith over these 6 issues, and that all eyes are on us as we prepare for the largest healthcare worker strike in history. The strike is set to begin tomorrow and will last for 3 days. Kaiser denies the union's accusations and says hospitals and emergency rooms will remain open during the strike.
Voters in Santa Ana next month will decide whether one city council member should stay in office.
Chapman News reporter Luis Avila is live from Santa Ana with the details.
Thank you, Avery and Kevin. I am here standing outside City Hall in Santa Ana, where Councilmember Jesse Lopez is facing recall next month. Now, the recall is backed by the Santa Ana Police Officers Association. I spoke with the councilmember to get her thoughts on the recall. Take a look. Councilmember Jesse Lopez represents Santa Ana residents living in Ward 3, the northernmost part of the city. She was elected in 2020 and won more than 1/3 of the vote. Yet a recall effort gathered enough signatures to qualify and proceed with the recall election. Lopez says residents were misled, even lied to by those who went door to door to get signatures.
Many people have reached out to us, have shared their audio, their recording audios, their ring videos, and of the conversations that they were having. And that's how we learned about some of the things that they were telling our residents.
Residents who did not want to go on camera tell Chapman News that some canvassers told them the petition was in support of public education. Others were told it was a petition about whether Lopez should run for a second term. The Santa Ana Police Union says it backs the recall because Lopez supports defunding the police and also supports policies that encourage landlords to raise rent. But Lopez denies both of these claims. She says the recall is about the police union wanting to consolidate its power in City Hall and financial greed. Lopez says that union leadership is angry because she did not support a police pay raise, which she says the city could not afford.
And so here you have a police union-driven recall simply because I did not want to support a $24 million contract, and I've stood up for working class people in the city of Santa Ana. It is unfair to continue to burden taxpayers of the city with the heavy cost just because one person there wanted to boost their own pension.
That one person, former police union leader Jerry Serrano, who was recently, as the city spokesperson put it, separated from city service. Chapman News attempted to reach Serrano and the police union for comment. None of our emails or phone calls were returned. This isn't the first time the police union has backed the recall of a city council member. In 2020, Cecilia Iglesias was voted off the council. Iglesias said the recall was due to her opposition to a police pay raise. With her re-election coming up next year, City Council Member Lopez questions the timing of the recall.
So what is their plan in place to try and oust me out a year earlier? What is it that they really want to get out of the city council that they cannot have me on there?
Lopez says bearing the cost of this election will impact taxpayers in Santa Ana.
This is definitely going to have a financial impact on people, whether people decide to participate or not. To be forced to spend over $500,000 and potentially over $1.2 million is completely
Once again,
unnecessary
just note, I
and
contacted
unfair.
the police union and phone, but was denied comment. Now, mail-in ballots will be sent out in the next few weeks and due November 14th. Live from Santa Ana, I'm Luis Avila for Chapman News.
Up will be joined by 2 Dodge College filmmakers to talk about their entry in a local film festival, a film about a street graffiti artist here in Southern California. Stay tuned.
I'm Tegan Callie. Coming up, everything you need to know about this week's weather forecast. I think it should have stayed on
I'll be
Phyllis.
seeing you in all of our favorite places with laughter and warm embraces all day through.
I love you too.
With free COVID-19 vaccines, sunnier days are ahead. Visit getvaccineanswers.org.
I'll be seeing you.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. As it turns out, we have very similar personalities. And this cat makes me make art because he's always motivating me to take pictures of him, to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. It's just that simple. Well, he's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Documentary made by 3 Dodge College students has been accepted to the upcoming Newport Beach Film Festival.
The film is titled Sincero and is about a Southern California street graffiti artist. Here's a look.
Never pictured myself being interviewed. I have always been anonymous. Not everybody has to know who I am.
You see a lot of graffiti in the areas of which gangs claim. It's also a sign of disrespect.
It's a form of meditation for me. It's a calming time. Getting stabbed, getting jumped, getting shot at. All the bad things that have happened to me in my city, it happened for a reason because I'm still here, right?
Joining us now on set are 2 student filmmakers who worked on the documentary, Peter Pan and Robin Stoop. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Can you tell us about the main character in your documentary, Alex Sanchez? How did you meet him, and what's his background?
So we met him through our other producer, Joe Leah. We were basically looking for stories that were local, but also, you know, larger than local, right? We wanted to kind of celebrate like an OC story. And basically, us being artists ourselves, we found Alex. He kind of told us his story, and we immediately kind of connected to him as a person. And he is a lot more than, you know, just a name, just a phase. He goes by Sincero, which means like being sincere. Like that's his entire kind of that's his whole thing. Basically, is like being a sincere person, making sincere art. And we really connected with that. Basically, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. What were some of the challenges you had in making the documentary?
One of the challenges we had is you know, the story is happening in Santa Ana, which is a city known for its criminal activity. But our goal is to highlight the good part of Santa Ana, and sometimes it is difficult to film in the city, but overall, because of the great personality and great access we had with Sincero, I think it went overall incredibly smoothly.
Wow. What's the message of the film? Like, what do you want people to take away from it?
Well, I think like going with that, right? Like we're like a crew of like not like typically Santa Ana people, and like we're going in with this amazing man who's like showing us these like places that he's like went to in his childhood, and we're like getting to the bottom of his story. And what we realize the bottom of the story is that like you can come from any sort of background, and if you want to be taken seriously, some people have to try harder, and not try harder, like achieve better, like achieve like greater, work harder. And the whole point of that is that all artists out there like deserve kind of a fair chance, and also deserve to be taken seriously and deserve to be paid for what they've done.
Wow.
Inspirational.
All right. Thank you for joining us today, Robin and Peter, and good luck with your film's entry in the Newport Beach Film Festival. We'll all be watching Saturday, October 14th.
Thank you.
Old Town Orange near the Chapman campus is known for its charming shops and farmers market, its designation as a historic landmark, and now a film festival. The inaugural Old Town Film Festival took place this past weekend right here in Orange. The theme was Different Done Right. Founder Dan Parks says he wants the event to stand out from other festivals. The event took place at the Orange American Legion and was sponsored by several local small businesses, including The Potting Shed, Orange Overhead Door Company, Lucky Deluxe Fabrics, Emblem Media Productions, LVML Club, and Big Al's Pizzeria. There were 3 days of screenings, capped off by an award show on Sunday night. Dan and his family worked hard to give filmmakers the welcoming experience they felt other festivals lacked, and the local filmmakers were grateful for the platform to showcase their films.
Everything that you guys have been doing to bring film to not bring film to our community, make film come out in our community that has always been there, which is really special.
Dan Parks says he's excited by the community support for the festival and is looking forward to next year.
The OC Register reports supporters of the effort to oust 2 members of the Orange Unified School District Board have now collected more than the minimum required petition signatures for a recall vote. According to the Register, recall organizers gathered 18,000 signatures calling for the removal of School Board President Rick Ledesma and Trustee Madison Miner. That's roughly 5,000 more than they needed. The recall group formed in response to the board calling a special meeting in January of this year, during which it fired the district superintendent without explanation. The county registrar's office now has until November 8th to certify the signature.
Starbucks plans to phase out its iconic cups in Canada and the U.S. Chapman News reporter Emily Cho has the story.
Because Starbucks' iconic cups are disposable, many of them end up in landfills or as litter. The company's goal is not to completely get rid of paper and plastic cups, but to make the option less attractive to customers. It will focus on the widespread Borrow a Cup program. Customers pay a deposit for a durable cup they could take to go and drop off at the nearest Starbucks after they're done. However, this would create more work for employees, as ex-Starbucks worker Josh White tells us.
For the workers, it's going to be hard for them to, keep track of the mugs and making sure, that they're always clean, because then there's already a lot of dishes to begin with because of all the other, cups and stuff we have to wash for making drinks.
By the end of next year, customers would be able to use personal mugs at every Starbucks, even if they order ahead or use a drive-thru. I'm Emily Cho reporting for Chapman News.
Avery, it's starting to look like fall here in Orange County, isn't it?
It definitely is. Tegan Callie can tell us if it's going to stay cool.
And now let's take a look at that local forecast. Here in Orange today, it is 81 and sunny. Not the temperatures many are hoping for the first week of October, but what can you do about it? As for our national forecast, let's start off northwest. In Seattle, we're looking at 61 today. San Francisco is going to be a beautiful 75. Las Vegas down 15 degrees from last week with a high of 81, twinning with Orange today. Denver's going to be 70, and Austin is going to be 96. Looking up north, Minneapolis is up 15 degrees from last week. It has actually been so hot that they had to cancel the annual Twin Cities Marathon because of the record-breaking heat. In fact, almost every city in the Midwest and Northeast is looking at a 15 to 20 degrees rise in temperatures this week, with Chicago being 81, Detroit being 84, New York being 81, and DC being 84. Down south, it's a little bit cooler, but not by much, with Atlanta being 83 and Miami being 85. Zooming on into Orange County, Westminster is going to be 78 today. The beach cities of Newport and Laguna, we're looking at 75 and 74 respectively. San Clemente is going to be 72. Mission Viejo is going to be 78. Irvine's looking at 77, and for the second week in a row, Orange is the hottest in the county with temperatures of 83. And it's not going to get any better with today, high of 83 and sunny. Tomorrow, we're looking at a high of 89 and sunny. Then Thursday, the temperature is going to keep going up, still sunny, 92. Friday, it's going to dip down a little bit to 90. And Saturday, I hope you're at the beach because it's going to be sunny and 93. Not the October 1st week we were hoping for, but this is what we have. Back to you guys at the desk.
Many California fast food workers will be getting a raise. Governor Gavin Newsom has signed legislation that will raise the minimum wage to $20 per hour for employees working at restaurants that have more than 60 locations nationwide. The pay raise goes into effect on April 1st of next year. Newsom says 500,000 workers in California will qualify for the higher wages.
There are nearly 10,000 students here at Chapman University, and for some students, it can be a little overwhelming socially. A new app is designed to help. Bondo allows students to meet online and then connect in person. Chapman Dean of Student Affairs Jerry Price says Bondo was created by an alumnus to help students find others with similar interests.
I'm actually an introvert, and I remember my college days when there's so many people arriving at once, it could be overwhelming. If you're an extrovert, it's just like, oh my gosh, thousands of people to meet. But for others, it can be a little overwhelming, and we thought having opportunities for students to connect with other people, like I said, with these more kind of atypical or niche interests might be helpful.
Price says Chapman is the first school to try Bondo. There are about 500 students currently using Bondo, with the majority of them being freshmen.
I'm Bella Leach, and coming up, I'll have your update on the MLB and WNBA playoffs.
That's it! For the first time in 21 years!
NBA preseason and Chapman Sports on the Best Campus Sports Show. Stay tuned.
You are in the middle of a game. Adrenaline coursing through your body. And you are calling the shots. Feel the power as you control the game's narrative. From commentator to camera virtuoso, replay wizard to unyielding director. There is no better experience than being in the moment. Challenge your limits and embrace the electrifying rush that comes with the crowd's roar. You never know the epic plays you will capture and the masterpiece you could make. You could be an amateur learning on the fly or a pro wanting to expand your skills. You will always fit in. And what better place to broadcast your skills than in sports? Never knowing what is coming next and always coming across something new. Join the Chapman Sports Broadcasting Network and experience the thrill of life.
Construction is underway here in Orange County for the first completely electric and solar-powered hospital in the United States. The 7-story, 144-bed hospital is expected to be finished by 2025. It will be part of a $1 billion medical complex for the UC Irvine Health System. The complex will include an urgent care center, a center for autism and neurodevelopmental disorders, a cancer center, and an emergency department.
A bill that would place cameras in school zones to catch speeders in 6 California cities has passed the state legislature and made it to Governor Newsom's desk. If signed by Newsom, a speed safety pilot program could begin as soon as January. The speed camera sites would target school zones and also areas known to have high-level street racing. In Southern California, the cameras would be placed in Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Glendale. Violators would face fines starting at $50 and as high as $500. The bill's co-author, State Representative Laura Friedman, says the camera will make streets safer for all in California. Yet critics, such as the agency Human Rights Watch, argue the cameras will disproportionately target Indigenous people and communities of color. Governor Newsom has until October 14th to sign or veto the bill.
The U.S. Supreme Court will once again take on the issue of social media and online content regulation. One of the cases the justices will take on their new term involves laws passed in 2021 by Texas and Florida. If the Supreme Court upholds the laws, social media platforms such as TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook could be subject to new regulations. The platforms could also be prevented from removing what they cite as inappropriate content. Supporters of the Texas and Florida laws argue they are necessary to protect freedom of speech online. The state laws would allow users to sue social media platforms for political censorship and would also restrict companies from removing content even if it violates the company's terms.
Hey Kevin, is your team going to the MLB playoffs this year?
My Dodgers sure are, and Bella Leach will tell us about the rest of the MLB playoffs starting today and other sports news.
Thanks Kevin and Avery. I'm Bella Leach and welcome to the Best Campus Sports Show. It is officially the best time of the year, October baseball and the countdown to the World Series. The postseason stage is set with the 3-game wildcard series starting tonight. In the American League, Tampa Bay will take on the Texas Rangers, while Toronto goes head-to-head with Minnesota. Battling it out in the National League, the Phillies are hosting Miami as the Milwaukee Brewers face the Arizona Diamondbacks. The winners of each of these matchups will move on to the division series. Speaking of playoffs, the WNBA semifinals wrapped up this past weekend with Liberty knocking out the Connecticut Sun. Brianna Stewart and Jonquel Jones led Liberty's 87-84 win over the Sun, landing them a spot in the finals for the first time since 2002. As they look to win their first franchise title, Liberty will face the defending champions, the Las Vegas Aces. The best-of-5 championship series begins this Sunday in Las Vegas. While the MLB and WNBA are in the postseason, the NBA season is just getting started, with training camp officially beginning today. LeBron James announced at the Lakers Media Day that he is dedicating this season to his son Bronny. Bronny, James' oldest son and a freshman at USC, suffered cardiac arrest this summer at a Trojans practice. LeBron says Bronny is doing well and has started the rehab process in hopes of returning to the court this season. While we wait on Bronny's return, you can catch LeBron and the Lakers kick off preseason against the Warriors this Thursday. Bringing it home, it was a big weekend for Chapman men's tennis at the ITA Division III Fall West Regional. 4 straight wins placed graduate student Caleb Wilkins in the ITA Singles Championship for the 2nd year in a row. Meanwhile, fellow Panther freshman Ian Jordan secured his spot for the doubles title. With their finals appearances, Wilkins and Jordans have punched their tickets to the National ITA Cup, which begins next week in Rome, Georgia. We'll be cheering you on from Orange. Good luck, guys. And with that, game, set, match, my time at the sports desk is up. Thanks for watching. For Chapman News, I'm Bella Leach.
And coming up, I visited a local pizza restaurant to learn more about the OC Deaf Foundation. Stay tuned for more after the break.
Swifties good for the economy? Stay tuned and we'll be exploring the economic impact of Taylor Swift in her stadium tour era.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars.
No, you don't.
But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover their unique mix of all kinds of traits.
Where'd Wiley go? Where's Wiley? Ah, there she is.
Paw?
Do you remember being an ancient wolf? Do you ever feel the call of the wild?
You're a renegade cop, and I'm a con woman with nothing to prove. But together, we could really solve this murder. They're a little bit of a lot of things. But all of them are pure love.
According to a national poll, 53% of American adults identify as a fan of Taylor Swift, making the pop musician's appeal as divided as our U.S. political parties. Whether you're a fan of Taylor Swift or not, you certainly have been hearing her name in the news.
The 33-year-old pop singer has just concluded the first leg of her U.S. Eras Tour, which brought in 72,000 Swifties a night. Tess Martinelli is in the studio to discuss the economic impact of her stadium tour and her power as a public figure.
Thank you, Kevin and Avery. This was anything but a cruel summer for the nation's economy, with Taylor Swift's Eras Tour sweeping the nation. The 5-month, 53-show tour grossed an estimated $2.2 billion in ticket sales alone, successfully surpassing Elton John's multi-year farewell tour as the largest musical tour of all time. And as you can see on the chart, Taylor is worlds above other artists like Coldplay, U2, Elton John, and Ed Sheeran. But ticket sales pale in comparison to the estimated $5 billion of ancillary spending that Swifties spent on food, accommodations, transportation, and clothing. In fact, the average fan spent $1,300 for the experience. The result of this spending? An unprecedented boom in local economies. The Federal Reserve has officially recognized Swift for her part in reigniting the domestic tourism industry, truly making her our Miss Americana. Zooming into Southern California, Swift's 6-show stint in Los Angeles created 3,300 new jobs and increased local revenue by $160 million. If the magnitudinal impact of this tour doesn't already sound like a figment of your wildest dreams, here's more. Are you ready for it? Swift's opening night in Arizona generated more money for local businesses than the Super Bowl that was held in the exact same stadium. Whether she's rooting for Travis Kelce or performing live, Taylor is the queen of the football stadium. The press, fans, and haters cannot look away from the madwoman that is Miss Swift. She quite simply is the moment. Which begs the question, how far does her power and influence extend? California Governor Gavin Newsom had this to say about her reign.
But what she was able to accomplish just in getting young people activated to consider that they have a voice and they should have a choice in the next election, I think is profoundly powerful.
It is certainly not a stretch to say that Taylor has influence over her millions of adoring fans. On September 19th, she encouraged her 273 million Instagram followers to register to vote, a simple act which drove 35,000 people to register. Although Taylor's reach is unprecedented, musical figures have historically had a strong impact on the socio-political landscape of their respective eras. Bob Dylan and John Lennon on the 1960s anti-war movement, Billie Holiday and Nina Simone on civil rights in America, And more recently, Kendrick Lamar and Childish Gambino on racial violence and police brutality. The messages of these musicians have all transcended beyond the cultural zeitgeist of their time and continue to drive political change. Taylor Swift absolutely has the potential to shape our political landscape. I mean, look at what she's already been able to do for the economy. So, as the 2024 presidential debate nears, I'll be keeping my eyes and ears on Swift. No time is better than the present to speak now. For Chapman News, I'm Tess Martinelli. Back to you at the desk.
Speaking of pop stars, Beyonce recently announced she will be releasing a film of her most recent tour, The Renaissance. The film will be in AMC theaters starting December 1st, and tickets are already on sale. According to Billboard magazine, the tour has grossed over $581 million. It is also now the highest grossing tour by a woman in history. The New York Times also reports the Renaissance tour has generated $4.4 billion for the American economy.
One Orange County group is working to unite the hearing and deaf communities. On the third Thursday of every month, the Orange County Deaf Equal Access Foundation hosts a gathering at Shakey's Pizza Parlor in Garden Grove. The event is for all ages and both deaf and hearing. Those in attendance enjoy pizza while learning American Sign Language. These pizza parties have been going on for over 30 years. Longtime OC Deaf member Rennie Montez explains the impact on the community.
There's another department, they all run together, and we helped a lot of deaf people.
The organization advocates for those who are hard of hearing. OC Deaf provides translators to ensure communication access for the deaf community. For example, the group's hearing volunteers help interpret doctor's appointments, job interviews, and other important meetings. Member Maria Von Busicone recently joined the organization to advocate on behalf of her young daughter, Cora. Maria and Cora have been attending the pizza parties for 6 months now, bringing along other family members as well. Maria explains their journey into the deaf community.
There's a lot of little things that you learn as a parent that are like how much you try to call your child to get their attention, and you're like, wait, that's like not gonna work. Flip off the light switch or like hit the ground, or there's a lot of different approaches.
OC Deaf also hosts other gatherings such as coffee chats, movie nights, Angels games, and Knott's Berry Farm.
That's all for our newscast this week. Be sure to check out our YouTube page at chapmannews.tv. Make sure to follow us at Chapman News. I'm Kevin Barr.
And I'm Avery Feldman. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week for more Chapman News.